Good evening, everybody. Entry number 2, sticking to it. April 26th, Thursday, 8:36 p.m. Hope you're all having a wonderful evening. I wanted to take this entry to just kind of go over a little more in detail what I touched on in the first one. This cycle is not going to be as heavy with the idea of grieving the death of someone as my last one was. A couple reasons. I'm healing through that grief. And honestly, that project was a big part of helping me do that. And I'm not facing the same kind of pain and overwhelming feelings that I was back then at that time. They still happen, and if they happen during the cycle, you'll see that. The other big reason is that really had to be the focus of that first cycle because it was the focus of my whole thesis project, which, by the way, I never mentioned. Got a total A+ on, killed it. It was awesome. Thank you, everybody who participated or watched. So the idea of this one is that it's still focusing a little bit on grief or loss, but there are so many different things that we grieve. And I think so often we associate it only with death or losing someone that we love. And then because of that, so often, if you haven't lost somebody, if you thankfully at this point in your life haven't experienced that kind of pain, you think you don't know what to say. You think you don't know how to support somebody. But I think if you reflect a little more, you'll understand that you most likely do. What are some things that we grieve that we might not really realize? Well, everybody at some point has definitely had a broken heart. I mean, and that is definitely grief. Whether you're the one who left or you're the one who got left, whether it was amicable or whether you felt like it was torn apart, you grieve that person. You grieve who you were with them. You might grieve who you weren't with them. You grieve what you gave up, what you didn't have. You can even grieve what you thought it was, what your impression of it was going into it, and then realizing that's never was the reality in the first place. So even good relationships that come to peaceful endings, we can still grieve a lot of things in there. And a lot of people don't allow themselves to do that. They jump into another relationship or they spend so much time being angry or upset that they don't realize it's okay to just sit in that moment and give respect to the things that were and weren't. So that's one. We can grieve the loss of a job, not even losing it, but moving into another job. You can be moving on in life and get a promotion or leave one company for something else, or even be within the same place and the environment changes. And even if it's great news and it's a better pay grade and you love your new job, you can still grieve what you didn't have. We can grieve when we move. Definitely. I'm experiencing that, Big moves or little ones. You can go from an apartment to a house and you can realize that, man, I'm kind of sad that I don't have that neighbor next door who has a wall I can knock on, or that community pool where I saw people and had a little bit of interaction. Or like me, you can move across the country, and although it's everything you wanted and you're completely happy, there's a lot of things you miss there and you grieve. Some of the hardest things I think that also people forget about is friendships. I mean, it's great to say that we all have these great friends and we're going to be friends forever and they're always going to be in your life. But the truth is that that's just not life. There's that great saying that some people come into your life for a day, a year, a season, or a lifetime. And I've also found that sometimes they can come back again. So we grieve that too. Some of my hardest heartbreaks were the loss of friendships, and not allowing myself time to grieve those and what really happened, I think, was actually very detrimental to me in moving on and healing from that process and letting go. Definitely we grieve the loss of pets. And here's a big one. We can grieve ourselves, like for yourself. You can just grieve for yourself, feeling that I'm not who I thought I was, or I'm not where I wanted to be, or all those self-doubt things, instead of looking at it like you're doubting yourself or you're not where you should be or you want to be, or getting stuck in that mindset of self-hatred or negative talk, maybe look at it as, what do I think I'm missing that I'm grieving not having? And where would I be if I had it? And do I really need it? And then what else do I have that I can be grateful for? And these are just a couple themes that are going to come up throughout this cycle. I will most likely talk about some of them for an entire clip. I know that I definitely can go into more detail about a couple of them. But this is just a way to reintroduce what's going to happen this time, so you don't have to be quite as afraid of watching or maybe commenting or interacting as that first one. I know it was a little harder to see me and to also be that vulnerable. But please, comment. What is something else that you might grieve? Did anything I said ring a bell with you or make you look at something a different way for a moment? Do you have any questions? Do you want to say, can I grieve the loss of a sandwich? I don't know. Let's talk about it. Can you grieve the loss of a sandwich? It's just such an interesting emotion that does not need to have this negative connotation that we put on it. And it's amazing how when you really do allow yourself to see it and understand it and feel it, the positive things that can come from it, from that experience. So leave a comment, send a private message, text me, call me. I get it. It's hard to put yourself out there, but I would love the input. I would love suggestions, and I would welcome any questions that you might have that I might be able to address in the next clip or video, because it's also not quite as easy when you're not just focusing on being sad and grieving a death. I'd like to make this a little bit more of an open conversation, and if no one else is talking, I'll just keep talking, because, if you know me, I can do it. So that's that. Cycle 2, let's talk about grief in all of its forms. Let's talk about how it can be replenishing, how it can lead us to rebirth, to letting go, to forgiveness, to opening ourselves up, to understanding ourselves, our path, our life, our pain. There's so much good that can come from this word that we're all so afraid of. All right? Well, I hope some of you enjoyed it. I hope I gave you something to think about. And again, hit me up. I will see you all tomorrow. Mwah. Good night.